Hello and welcome to another Panther Podcast Weekly. This is Todd Bell. This week we're going to be checking in with the Ohio Dominican men's soccer program. Now, a reminder that you can catch all past episodes of Panther Podcast Weekly by going to YouTube, search and subscribe to ODU Athletics, and you can get updates on the latest podcast releases by following us on social media at ODU Athletics on both Facebook and on Twitter. Last year, head coach Willy Merrick completed his 12th season as the head coach of the Ohio Dominican men's soccer program. Last September, in a 3-2 road win at Trevecca, coach picked up his 100th victory as the head coach at ODU. Today, we welcome Willy Merrick, the ODU men's head soccer coach, to Panther Podcast Weekly. Coach, thanks for taking some time of what is now becoming a busier schedule for you. As someone who I know is constantly on the go, on the move, always got your hands and feet involved in something. What did you do to stay busy over the past 3 months?
Well, Todd, first of all, thanks for having me. And secondly, definitely love to stay busy and keep moving. But that first month, 6 weeks it was definitely a different time period. And it feels like it was ages ago, to be honest with you. I would first of all, I had to move out of my place because my wife's a nurse and they had a couple COVID positive patients, and she just felt it would be best if me and the dog went and lived with my stepdaughter and son-in-law. So we did that. So I mean, I got to hang out with the granddaughter on an everyday basis for like 6 weeks. So that was awesome from that standpoint. And the typical day for me during that time was ODU work in the morning from basically 8:30, 9 o'clock until maybe 1. And then in the afternoons, I was basically playing Poppy or Grandpa with the granddaughter. So the kids loved it, and meaning my stepdaughter, because that means they had a little bit of freedom to do what they needed to get done around their house. So that's what I did for consistently for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then tried to take care of my own self, my own body, because I'm used to being really active and playing soccer and running and having my feet and my body in some type of sport. So it was very difficult to try and stay on top of that.
So from a virus standpoint, this really hit closer to home to you than most because of your wife's occupation. Yeah.
I mean, she worked, her schedule was really tough for like 2 or 3 weeks there, putting in extra hours than she would normally per week. And then obviously not me only being able to stay connected with her through FaceTime and video stuff like this. We were apart for a while. Yeah. But strong relationship, strong family. So we managed to get through it. But yeah, it was definitely a trying period.
So for all of our coaches in our department, you've had to come up with new ways to communicate with your players, set up workouts, game plans. How has all of that worked for you, your staff, and your players thus far?
Yeah, so today was our first day of voluntary workouts, and we had about 10 guys show up, which was awesome. We have probably 15 guys total that can make it, that are in town, around 270 that can make it in. Depending on their job schedules and what have you. So trying to figure out the numbers, trying to figure out the distancing, trying to figure out what you want to get across in a training session for an hour and 15 minutes you scratch your head a little bit for days. You make up worksheets, what they look like. You throw that draft away because it wasn't. You come up with something else, then you throw that one away and you come up with something else. So that was really a 4 or 5 day period for me. And then finally, I think we got it right. We got all the details right. We got the exercises, what we're trying to get accomplished out of that hour and 15 minutes today. And the feedback, which was super important to have from the players, was this is exactly what we needed. This worked out perfectly for us, Coach. Can't wait to come back. So having heard that, I know we're on the right track.
What was the challenges like leading up to the opportunity now to actually be face-to-face and on a field with your players in terms of what you were able to lay out for your players to do?
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with the institution's policy of what you can and can't do, number one. How you enter, how you exit the field, how you, again, as I said, set up the exercises. But the guys staying in their cars till we wave them on the field, wearing their masks from point A to point B, and then, separating yourselves and giving yourself the distance to get yourself ready to go for training. And then, boom, the masks come off, and then you train. And you're going from one exercise to the other exercise. You got to talk fast. You got to demonstrate. You got to make sure the details are right, because you don't want to do a drill or exercise that doesn't make sense or they don't get it, because it's not going to – the performance and what we want them to get out of it's not going to work. They're going to develop a bad habit or something. So getting all that stuff right is critical, and I think it worked out today. They really do.
It's interesting because I guess you think a little bit about your sport, and yeah, there's a lot of contact with the opponent, but in terms of what you're trying to do on the field, spacing is actually very important to your sport.
It is, and that was probably the one adjustment that wasn't such a big adjustment, is the spacing. What's the adjustment is when they're going to get a drink of water. They all like to congregate and huddle around the water or something like that. Well, we don't have water. They have to bring their own. And there's no high-fiving. There's no spitting. There's no, bring hand sanitizer with you. Between the exercise, when you're getting a drink, wipe your hands down. Goalkeepers like to use the balls. Well, their gloves have to be sanitized and cleaned. So every possible T that needed crossed and I that needed dotted, we tried to get done this past week, and made sure today it ran as smooth as it possibly could.
Our school, the conference we play in, has not publicly officially announced any sort of upcoming season, what it may look like. Other conferences and schools are starting to have some things kind of leak out a little bit. Do you have any idea right now, and what you can talk about publicly, what your fall season may look like?
I know, and it's very little what I know, but I know we're going to have, most likely we're going to have a 14-game schedule, and it's going to be all conference. All our out-of-conference games looks like they're done because all the other conferences are doing relatively the same thing. So right now, what I know is we're going to report on August 12th, and by then, with all the experimenting we're doing and trying to figure everything out, hopefully we'll have a good game plan to get through preseason and get ready for our first game, which with only 14 games and your season being so long, there's a couple advantages, actually. Number one, the budget, the finances. I think it's going to be a little bit lighter in our pocket this year because we're not maybe doing some traveling that we would normally do. Number two is the spacing of the season. We're going to actually have some room in there to really train hard, recover, and get ready for a game. And then after the game, recover a little longer and then get ready to train hard. Whereas in years past, it's been Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, game Thursday, light Friday, game Saturday, one day to really recover. Where I think we're going to have a little more time now to do that. And who knows what this will lead into moving forward. This could be a whole eye-opening experience as to how the NCAA and the conference wants to move forward, and what our data and information we get from this to give back to them can help transform something new.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think everybody will start to do everything a little bit differently, whether it's just everyday life or now our athletics or whatever it might be. I want to shift gears a little bit, Coach, and I want you to kind of go back into the memory bank and the Wayback Machine. Your time here at Ohio Dominican, you are one of the veteran head coaches that we have here on staff. Now, I think you might be the third longest tenured head coach that we have here behind Coach Van Lanningham and Coach Dybel. Think back to when you started here as an assistant, the amount of changes that have gone on both in our athletic department and even how our campus looks from maybe the first time that you stepped foot on it.
Yeah. Well, the first time I stepped foot on it, I went to the admissions office and it was a house. Mm-hmm. It was a small house next to a big parking lot, where now our student center sits. So that was different. Our Brentnell was one of our training fields that we rarely ever even use anymore. We have a science building now. Our athletic facilities have just, are taking shape and look way better than they did back when I first started. So, yeah, it's been kind of cool to see the time capsule.
How about the play on the field and the student athletes that you coach? How has that all changed in the last decade plus that you have been a head coach?
Yeah, I will say the wrinkles and the trends of the sport of soccer since from 12 years ago when I first started to now have changed a little bit for sure. And I'm trying to stay up to date and with all that. So yeah, it's definitely different. The type of player we're recruiting with the resources we have is a little bit different. We're probably looking. I was before looking at quality over quantity. Now it's kind of favoring the other way. It's quantity and trying to get as much quality as you can. But it does, you hope that happens, but it doesn't necessarily all the time.
Is the high school game better now, and so that's transitioning to better players that are playing at the college game?
Well, what I will say, the high school game's always been the high school game. I don't think that has changed. What has changed is the club scene. With the developmental academy that actually just disbanded this summer, probably due to COVID. This probably gave them a reason to go another avenue. The MLS is doing something totally different with the youth academies, which is great to see. And we, with the crew in our backyard, that's kind of changed the landscape of soccer a bit. And then the ECNL and there's a new league going to be right below the Academy League is going to be a wonderful league, and it's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of quality talent to look at, and I think there's enough fish in the sea for everybody.
Coach, we've talked a number of times, whether people know the story or not, and we're not going to talk about this story today, but it's your famous 15 minutes of fame when you kicked the game-winning field goal for Marshall against Youngstown State a number of years ago and beat Jim Tressel's Penguins to win a national championship in a very crazy, crazy time. What I do want to talk about is something that we've kind of never publicly talked about. It's been kept behind the scenes, and it's the time back in, I think, 2009, your team ran onto the field wearing blue uniforms. Do you remember that? And can you tell us the story and maybe the fallout from athletic director Bill Blazer, who has since passed on?
That could be that's the biggest story from a negative on my career. That's the biggest story for sure, and maybe the only one, I hope. But yeah, so traditionally in European soccer and all of soccer at the pro level, at the highest level, there's multiple different color uniforms that the teams wear. For instance, Barcelona, they have probably 4 or 5 different kits, and their staple colors are like burgundy and blue. Well, Man U, their colors are red and black, but they'll come out with a pink or a green or something like that. And all these different clubs have that. And I was like, how cool would it be to have a third kit? And I'd seen some colleges do it, have a third game kit with a totally opposite color of what our branding is. And I saw these other colleges do it, and I thought, okay, seems like it must be okay to do. Well, I'm in my I think it might be my second year, maybe third year as head coach. I'm not sure. What'd you say, 2009?
Yeah, I'm trying to think my memory bank right around
Second
2009.
year.
Yeah.
So second year, the guys come to me in the spring and say, hey, coach, we were thinking about a third kit for next year. And I'm like, that's a good idea, because I'd seen it everywhere. Well, they came up with the colors. They came up with the design. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. I'll get it done. I'll order it, and we'll have it here by preseason, and we'll have it for and we'll only use it on certain games, like special games that have some more meaning than others to us. So like senior night would be a great example. Maybe a homecoming weekend, we had a home game, we'd pull it out, something like that. So, and then this particular year was the first game of the season, our first home game of the season, excuse me. We were playing Charleston, West Virginia, and we came out with these kids, and our AD sitting in the ticket booth, looking up, or comes out to the ticket booth, sits in there, and he's like, what the heck is, who is that out there, Urbana? We're wearing these sky blue type uniforms, and we definitely don't look like ODU. Charleston's wearing their burgundy. The uniforms were magnificent. We're awesome. And honestly, I think it's a great idea, but we didn't follow there's some branding procedures and protocol here at ODU that you needed to follow. I should have probably gone. I should have gone to the AD and got clearance first before I did something like this. But I was only thinking of the NCAA rules and that type of stuff at the time. Like, okay, if it's cleared by them, it should be good. Well, first of all, we got our butts kicked that night. And then at the end of the game, the assistant AD, Jeff Blair at the time, questions me a little bit and goes, by the way, Bill Blazer, you should have heard the words coming out of his mouth. None are repeatable, but he wants to know what's up with these uniforms, and he wants to see you first thing in the morning in his office. And I'm just like, the rest of the night I'm on pins and needles. I'm like, oh my God, what I do wrong? And the next day I met with Bill and Jeff in the conference room. And needless to say, Bill was very professional in how he handled it. Bill, great man. Jeff in there handled it and basically gave me a slap on the wrist because of my big first blunder within the department. And but yeah, I was a little worried. I thought I might be looking for a new job.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are those jerseys now?
So what we did is we used them the next year as warm-up jerseys. And then we allowed the players, since they all paid for them themselves, were able to keep them. And they got to keep them. So they have them somewhere in their memorabilia. And when someone sees that, they're telling stories like this too.
So needless to say, we've either ever worn white, black, or gold onto the field ever since.
Correct.
Hey, you learned your lesson.
I did. So what is it, 2020 for the next 11 years? 10 years, I've been on the good side there.
I figure it's been long enough. We could tell that story, and you should be escape of any problems.
True.
Yeah.
True.
except for you're coughing on your water now, Coach. It's always great to visit with you, and you always have great stories for us. I hope that you're able to get through this summer, your players and everybody healthy, and you can get back out on the field, and we can see some ODU soccer this coming fall.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it, and everybody out there, mask up.
That is head coach Willy Merrick, ODU men's soccer program. We're going to step aside for a moment. When we come back, we're going to visit with one of Coach Merrick's top players, senior Jaxson Szabo, as Panther Podcast Weekly continues.
Now's the perfect time to pursue your master's degree at Ohio Dominican University.
My master's degree in healthcare administration fit in perfectly with my full-time work schedule. I was able to advance my career, and the content applied directly into my day-to-day working experiences.
ODU's graduate programs in business, healthcare administration, and education can be completed 100% online or on campus. Apply now at ohiodominican.edu/grad.
Panther Podcast Weekly continues. This is Todd Bell. Our department stop this week is ODU Men's Soccer. And if you would like to keep up with the latest on their teams, you can follow them on Twitter at ODU_Men's Soccer. Jaxson Szabo played and started 13 games for the Panthers before suffering an injury last year. He led the Panthers with 8 goals on the season and converted on all 4 of his penalty kicks that he attempted. Led the team with 31 shots, 19 on target, and he had a hat trick that included a game winner against Tribeca Nazarene. Welcome, Jaxson Szabo, who will now be a senior this upcoming year here at Ohio Dominican, to this week's Panther Podcast Weekly. Jaxson, it's been a long time since you guys have been either on campus or had an opportunity to do something. What have you been doing to try and keep yourself busy during this pause that we've had to all endure?
Like you said before, I suffered that season-ending injury. So I had surgery on my knee, and I've been slowly trying to recover from that. Been able to get back into PT recently, so I've been doing that a couple times a week and just working out on my own, trying to get my knee right and get back on the field with the team.
So I guess in theory, because of the surgery, there really wasn't a whole lot that you could have been doing as it was. Yeah,
I mean, it's a good way to look at it, that it kind of worked out that way. That, I mean, I couldn't have been on the field with the guys anyway, so it's kind of nice that I've been going to PT and get my knee right and not been able to miss too much.
But probably going a little stir crazy at the same time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think everyone is right now, not being able to get back on the field.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the field, though. Reflect on your time on the field last season, because you were putting together a nice season before your injury.
Yeah, we've been young since I've been there. We've had a young core. We're starting to be more mature and get some seniors, get some more leadership on the team. And we're starting to turn things around last year. We started winning a couple games at the end of the season, started off a little slow, but I think it's really promising moving forward. We got a bunch of recruits coming in, and everything started shaping up towards the end of the season. So we have some momentum going forward.
So tell me about the momentum. Where do you think the key came from? Because you said it was a younger group. Was it just getting that experience on the field?
Yeah, I think that was important. We had a lot of guys who hadn't had experience really starting and getting good minutes. And towards the end of the year, we dealt with a couple injuries. We had a big time player, Jaxson Szabo, break his foot. Another player, Riv, big time. He tore his ACL as well. So it was nice to have those younger guys get that experience at the end and get going into next year.
So you mentioned all the incoming freshmen and all of your teammates. What have you guys been able to accomplish with whatever Coach Merrick has been able to put together for everybody? Who's kind of taken on the leadership role to make sure you guys are all doing the right things right now?
Yeah, well, Coach Merrick has actually done a great job. He sent out a real nice summer program for us and real easy to follow, just really a lot of fitness and ball work, because, I mean, that's really what's important this summer, since guys are spread out all across Ohio, that you really just got to work on your own and hold yourself accountable. And with that program, it's pretty easy. You know, you just got to keep your fitness up and keep your touch right. So when we're all back together, because it's a pretty quick turnaround, you get there early August, you only have a week or two before you start preseason games. So it's important that you prepare yourself going into the season.
Think back to your time as a freshman. How much were you able to get integrated? Now, you're from the Columbus area, so maybe you're on campus a little bit more than some of your other freshman teammates, but how difficult now will it be for the incoming freshmen to get integrated and have that chemistry?
Yeah, I mean, that is going to be tough, just especially because when you're graduating high school, we always have open fields throughout the whole summer. So right when you're done with high school, you start meeting the guys and going through the entire summer, just playing with them every once in a while, 2-3 times a week. So it's hard not being able to do that. So it will be quicker, but, you know, we always have a great preseason. Willie always gets us going quick, so I think it should be fine. You got a whole week to get going, so the freshmen will have to be able to learn and adapt quickly, but I'm sure they'll be able to.
All right, so let's talk about your career here at Ohio Dominican. Your freshman year, you had 4 goals, 3 goals your sophomore year, then you blossomed to 8 goals last season. What was it that led to the success last year and that big goal improvement for you?
I've been switching positions a lot since I've been there, playing in the back, playing forward a little bit, playing midfield my freshman year. So I think it was just getting more experience playing forward when we needed it, and it was nice being able to take those penalties, pat the stats a little bit.
Absolutely. Is there a more natural or comfortable position for you, and why?
I don't really prefer either way. It depends on the game, what the team needs specifically. If we think we can get on them early, then I like starting up top and maybe getting a few in. But if it's a team that really likes to attack and they usually start quick, then I like starting in the back and kind of dealing with the pressure a little bit. And then once the game opens up, maybe moving forward.
What has been maybe one of the more frustrating things leading up to now this season? I've got to think the unknown about a schedule that's now going to change for you, the amount of games that you're going to play, when you guys are going to actually be able to start. How is everybody, yourself, your teammates, kind of handling these unknowns right now?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to handle, but it helps having I think there's about 13 or 14 guys who are pretty local, so it's nice to be in communication with them and be close to them. Like Dublin Jerome recently opened up. A couple guys have been able to go out there and work together, but it is, like you mentioned, it's hard with the unknown of the season, but you can't let that affect how you work in the summer. You got to work like there's a full season ahead and you want to win a championship.
Can you have an expectation for yourself and for the team with all these unknowns?
Yeah, I mean, we have a big recruiting class coming in, and we're really hopeful with these guys. So, I mean, hopefully that if the season happens, we plan on getting a ring.
Okay, well, we'll certainly look forward to getting everybody onto the field, and we'll be following your season very closely. All right, enough of the deep dive, in-depth, hard questions. I got some fun questions here for you to maybe try and answer. So let's dive into our fast 5 here for you. Now, your brother Jacob was also a Panther. He scored 15 goals in the 3 seasons he was here. You've scored 15 goals now in your first 3 seasons. So who's the better Szabo?
Oh, geez, that's a tough one. I can't give myself too much credit. I mean, it all came from him. I learned everything I know from him, and he is the one who made me fall in love with the game. So I'll give him that one.
And I'm assuming that a big role model for you as well then.
Yeah, he's for sure a big role model. I really look up to him. He's one of the big things that helped me pick ODU.
All right. Favorite GMAC team that you most look forward to playing every year?
I would say Trevecca. Our team really likes that Nashville trip. Long bus rides with the team. It's good bonding experience, staying in the hotels. That's a fun trip for sure. It's a beautiful city as well.
And it doesn't hurt that you had a hat trick against them last year as well.
Yeah, that definitely helps too.
All right. Soccer is known for its goal celebrations. Do you have a goal celebration, and what is it?
Always just run to the bench with the team and get in a big group circle right there. I don't really like focusing too much attention on myself, just celebrating with all the boys.
So who on the team has the best goal celebration?
I would say Carter Patchett. His freshman year, he scored a game winner against Tiffin, and he had a nice little celebration. He was turning the volume up. They ran to the corner, so that was the best one for sure.
All right. If you weren't a soccer player and you were playing another sport, what would it be?
I would say basketball for sure. I'm not a great player, but I've always liked playing with my friends and stuff, so I would definitely say that. And I really look up to LeBron James, so that's probably a little bit of an influence as well.
Okay, yeah, and you played high school basketball as well at Thomas Worthington. All right, finally, your head soccer coach has a historic moment in time. He made a big game-winning field goal on the football field for Marshall University. How often does Coach Merrick bring up that historical field goal?
He actually doesn't really talk about it too much. I think he's maybe mentioned it once or twice, but he doesn't really like to boast either on himself. So he's humble in that way. But when he's on the soccer field and he's playing, he definitely lets you hear about it.
Have you guys seen the video of this?
I think we did see a video before a game one time or something, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty cool moment, and pretty cool that your coach did that. All right, Jacob, thanks so much for your Jaxson. I'm sorry, Jaxson. Thanks so much for your time today. It's good to catch up to you, and thanks for being with us on Panther Podcast Weekly. Hope to see you on the soon very quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, that's going to wrap up another edition of Panther Podcast Weekly. A reminder to go to our YouTube page, subscribe to it, and you can catch up on all the latest Panther Podcast Weeklies, and the season-ending Student Athlete Award Show is also available. And if you follow us on social media at ODU Athletics on both Facebook and Twitter, you can get the latest release dates and the links to all of our Panther Podcast Weeklies. Our thanks to soccer head coach Willy Merrick and Jaxson Szabo for being a part of this week's show. This is Todd Bell. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's always a great day to be a Panther.